Hey, what's up? I'm gonna do a little discussion today because I feel like there's been a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh stuff on my mind recently, and I've been thinking about the ban list and how Konami decided to um, change how they're gonna sort of approach this. So anyway, before I begin, this is more of a kind of listen-y kind of video, so I don't really have much up visually to show you, but this is kind of, you can just feel free to alt tab into Facebook or wherever and just listen to what I have to say, because that's really all I'm going to be doing, kind of just discussing what happened roundabout, I guess, last year and how things have changed since then. So Konami at some point decided that they felt 3-month ban lists were more appropriate than 6-month ban lists. A little bit after that, Konami decided that actually, I think that this was almost like the last ban list, actually, where Konami decided that they were no longer going to have planned and set dates for their ban list. They were now going to have effective from ban lists. Yeah. So, I don't really know what that means, like, in terms of their intention for competitive play. Like, what were they trying to do with that? Let's look at it this way. So, if you're a competitive player, you understand that you look at the game of Yu-Gi-Oh from sort of set to set, or set to list, or list to set. That's kind of how you plan your deck building, right? Other players like to sort of choose decks based on events, rather than what am I going to play this set? What am I going to play this format? People kind of just go, okay, so for this event, I feel like this kind of deck is going to be a bit of a good shout because of certain circumstances, and then decks kind of change from event to event. So I think for a lot of competitive players, the way the ban list is working now kind of doesn't affect much, because for a lot of us who like to kind of decide what we want to play, we kind of do it based on an event to event basis. So you think to yourself, it doesn't really matter what the set or ban list is, I'm probably going to change my deck anyway, because there's 2 events in this maybe like 1 month time span. I'm probably going to change decks, or I'm going to change my build of my deck at this point. So that, for a lot of competitive players, that's kind of not, that's just how they work, and it's fine. But for, I guess, people like me who are a little bit more casual, I feel like that this new sort of timeline that Konami have decided to make is a little bit annoying, because rather than thinking I need to collect all these cards for a deck, people like me kind of go, for this format, I guess I'll play this. For this set, I guess I'll play this deck. So at the start of this format, I was like, yeah, I'll play Dolls this format, and then a new set comes out, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll play this deck for this set, etc., etc. So the issue here is that because of the ban list changing from set dates to effective from dates, kind of suggests that Konami can essentially at any point in time change the list. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean in the big picture? So let's say we have, it's not really confirmed yet, but at the same time it's obviously not been announced yet, and that's like YCS London, which hypothetically could be in about 6 weeks from now. So like the 20th roundabout there for next month. Now, if we're going by last year's ban list, which was kind of when Konami decided to go by 3-month cycles rather than 6-month cycles, with July being the shortest, you have from pretty much like July 13 was last year, so this year we have July 16, to about October 1st is when the new list should be out for this year. So you have about 20 days to prepare. But if we're going by what happened with this World's list, there could be delays. So, we might see a list on something like the 10th of October, or like 2 weeks into October, and then you've got a YCS like the week after, and it's like, that kind of affects a lot of people's schedule, that affects a lot of people's, not only schedule, but I guess like finances, and it can affect events. Like, if you can't get the cards you need for an event in time, because suddenly there's just a big overhaul of a ban list, and now you're in a position where, oh, I have 1 week to get a hold of a playset of this and a playset of that, and maybe even a whole new deck. That means you don't have any time to plan, or at least you don't have any reliable way to time to plan. We can assume that the next ban list is going to be revealed. Well, it's not going to be revealed because brings me to my final point I wanted to highlight. Effective from dates mean that they are effective from there. So when the ban list drops for this format for July, I remember sitting in my locals and then suddenly, like, the game I'm currently playing is like void or whatever. I don't know, because I'm playing banned cards like Lavalvo Chain, or my opponent's like playing a banned card. It's crazy, like, how I don't understand how they can just make a ban list drop like on the day and say, oh, it's effective from today, like not even a day's notice. And Konami just, I don't get it. I feel like this could be an anomaly of sorts where they didn't mean to drop the ban list so early, and they kind of had to rush it because, I don't know, they just had to rush it. So if I check the date here real quick of when July 16 actually was, that was a Thursday. I don't know if that's like a standard day that they usually release it on, but the point I'm trying to make here is that there's little room for preparation, and I don't like this new kind of method that they've taken to designing their ban lists. I like the idea that they can maybe potentially make tweaks, like I guess maybe they could release a ban list in October and then a week later decide, oh, I guess we'll maybe bump this card to 3 or bump it down to 2 or whatever, etc. But at the same time, it's like, a lot of us who have been playing for a couple years or something are sort of used to the method of, you have a list at this day, you have a list at this day, you have a list on this day, and you just wait for it, and you kind of have a day where you in your head think, oh, it's probably going to be revealed about like 14 days before the next list actually should be effective from, so you kind of know when to like check the page, because that's kind of when it's going to be. And I think overall, since they've introduced this new way of dealing with ban lists, I personally hate it. I don't know how other people think, but I don't like it. I don't like being forced to change my deck and instantly like come up with ways to like find a new deck or play a new deck or something like on the day, and potentially even like a couple of days before a big event, especially if you're not playing in like sanctioned Konami events. Like if you've got like some kind of big like random PlayStation tournament in your local area and there's like maybe like 100 people or whatever that turn up, like, what if the ban list drops during that day, like kind of thing, like what do you do? Or like the night before, what happens? It's kind of problematic, but I suppose that this way doesn't really affect a lot of people who play this game very clearly, but I would say that the highly competitive people are a minority. I think a lot of people who play Yu-Gi-Oh are sort of in my boat, where you kind of, you don't, obviously you're not like sponsored to go somewhere and partake in an event and you're expected to win and potentially make a living out of playing the game. No, most of us just kind of go about our day-to-day lives, go to locals once a week, maybe play like a brogue deck every once in a while for fun at locals, go to pretty much most of the regionals in a year, play maybe some fun decks for 1 or 2 of them, should be able to get your invite, go to most YCSs with your friends, mostly as a way to get drunk and have a good time rather than, seriously play the game. And, I mean, like we all want to top, of course, but at the same time, it's like, we're kind of just there to have fun. We're not like gonna leave the event absolutely devastated if none of us top or whatever. We'll just probably have a laugh about it. I think that's the position most of us are in, and I think we're the people who kind of get affected by this kind of new list most, because I think if you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh from an event to event basis, I don't think this system really affects you, which is fair enough. But for those of us who kind of just sort of don't really do much with Yu-Gi-Oh other than like play every locals, go to most of the regionals, go to a couple of YCSs, travel for the fun of it, it's a little bit irritating to us. Like, we don't expect to do well, or, amazingly well, but at the same time, it's like, we have to like rush around, get the right cards, gotta borrow this and stuff, and you know, maybe it's like a personality thing for me personally. Like, I like the organization. I like the idea of being able to, you know, oh, this is when you have a new list. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay, cool. I'll start picking the cards up from now, 2 weeks in advance. That's kind of enough time. Should be okay. So I'll pick all these things up, and yeah, I'll be good to go. And instead we have this nonsense of the ban list is out today. Go, compete. It just doesn't work for me. I don't know. Maybe you're different. So I'd like to hear opinions on how you feel the ban list should be organized. Why not, etc. And I guess that's pretty much all I have to say. So thanks a lot for listening. Let me know in the comments what you think, and tell me how you feel about these kind of more visual sort of auditory kind of videos rather than actual visuals and stuff. So thanks again for listening, and see you next time.
Come face me, give in to your pride.